great to be here with you guys. Let's see. OK. Yep, so I want to share with you guys a generative AI project that we worked on and is currently live in production. The way I'll go about this is first a bit about me and us at Very Big Things. I'll talk about the client we're featuring, the problem that we decided to solve for them, the solution that we implemented, the outcome or results that we got from that. And then towards the end, I'll share my contact information. If you want to reach out about this presentation or just anything in general, please feel free to do so. All right. So about me, my name is Alex Nucci. I'm the VP of Go-to-Market at Very Big Things. I help with customers from the moment that we make first contact all the way through ideation, proof of concept, et cetera, and shipping it. Anybody that's customer-facing at Very Big Things is somewhat technical. And that's because our mission is to build world-class products. So we build digital products on behalf of our customers. And we're pretty good at it. We've won 140 awards. Some of these are best in breed for the kind of stuff that we do. Two of them that I can highlight is Top Technical Achievement Award for the Webbies, and then the UX Design Awards. We won Product of the Year. And we work with customers all the way from inception through very large enterprises. So Papa, which we're showing on there, we helped them build the first iteration of their app that they used when it was just an idea, all the way through $1 billion valuation. And then companies as large as Ryder, which they have $13 billion in revenue, and we've built products for them, their website, and different apps that they use. About 18 months ago or so, we decided to go all in on generative AI. Frankly, this is not a decision we made ourselves. It was a decision that was made for us by our customers. So our customers started coming to us and saying, can you help us build an AI roadmap? Can you help us figure out how do we start implementing this internally? And after saying yes to a few of these, we ended up coming with a workflow that's very similar to this. So first thing we'll do is an R&D phase with our customers. It takes 3 to 6 weeks. After that, we'll come out with a roadmap with ideas that we suggest they should be building internally, or that we could build for them. And we'll sort them essentially by how fast they can implement these, a timeline, how much they need to invest, and what ROI they'll get from it. Typically, after that, we'll do a proof of concept, so a very simple version of the idea. And then finally, we'll have a full-fledged product that we ship into production, very much like the one I'm going to show you guys and share here. So the client that I'm going to speak about is Zumba. Zumba is well known for their dance classes. It's kind of a fitness app. And they're a very global brand. They're actually in 180 countries. And about 10 million people use Zumba or take a Zumba class or participate in a class one way or another every single week. After we did the roadmap with them, we found out that one of their larger problems, or at least one of the ones that we could address more head-on with generative AI, is how they're going about by generating marketing content. So what we have on here is an email that they typically send out to their email list. They do about 200 of these campaigns a year. They're based out of Miami. A lot of the content that they write is in English because they're native English speakers. But then they need to translate this. And really, it's not just translation. It's also transcreation, which is something I didn't know existed until we started working on this. So transcreation, to share a few examples, or actually, before that, it's when you mix in language with emotion and culture. So those examples I was talking about, in English, a piece of cake can be an actual piece of cake. It can also be that something's very easy. In Spanish, pedazo de torta just literally means a piece of cake and nothing else. And then tie-dye for. So tie-dye is a very big aspect of Zumba's marketing campaigns. They have tie-dye T-shirts, tie-dye pants, tie-dye marketing campaigns that they run. Tie-dye for is a play on words on a saying that is in English. So this does not translate to any country whatsoever. So they need to make these options of either they don't use it in their marketing campaigns, or they have to switch it whenever they go to a different language. They also have brand voices. So Zumba is our most well-known brand. But they also have Zin, which is what they use to market directly to the instructors. They have Strong, which is this very high-intensity interval training kind of brand. And then they have Circle, which is a mobility-focused, yoga-focused branding. Each of these has a different ethos, different branding that they go after. And they all have their own dictionaries. So the existing solution that they've implemented is, first, they have a PSD file, so they'll open up Photoshop, build the campaign very much to the image that I showed before. Once they are done with that, they'll create Jira requests for every specific language that they want to transcreate this into. At that point, product manager takes over from the marketing team. The product manager verifies that they have all the materials that they require to be able to make a request further downstream. And to make that the request, what they do is they check a rubric to see which vendor they should be creating this request for this specific language, depending on the timelines that they have. After they do that, they reach out to one of these 4 vendors that they have on here. The vendors take anywhere from 1 day to 2 weeks to create the transcreations. The vendors will then submit it for final approval to another third party, which is a validator, essentially checking their work. And once a validator is done, it comes back into Zumba. Somebody inside the team checks it, approves the content, and it goes back to another PSD file or multiple PSD files. So this is a very error-prone process. I just walked through 3 or 4 teammates. I kind of touch through that, and you have different vendors syncing with each other. They also need to do this on 7 different languages. So of these 200+ campaigns that they do a year, you end up creating about 1,000 files or more in some cases, depending on the types of campaign. So these are very long turnaround times from the moment they decide they want to do a marketing campaign to the moment they're ready to push send on the email address. On the email template. It can take up to 2 weeks. And we all know that marketing teams want to be able to send an email that is timely for a specific holiday that's coming up. So they need to work within those timelines. And it's very complex to collaborate. So you have the marketing team, you have the PMs, you have the existing vendors. The vendors reach out to their vendors, and then all this loops back in, which leads to a high cost of about $600,000. So all in, they spend about $600,000 a year to create these transcreations, specifically for email templates. So this is not company-wide, just for this one project that they do. So the ask that they came to us with is, let's go ahead and reduce the need for third-party agencies. We either don't want to use them or reduce the need or having to interface with them directly. We would like to improve operational efficiency. We don't want to have 3 or 4 teammates touching these campaigns every time. And we want to make sure that we maintain Zumba's brand as we shift from marketing campaign to marketing campaign. I mentioned they have those 4 brands. Depending on the brand, you have to make sure that you use the right brand media kit. And they want to make progress towards an AI future. Zumba heavily believes that AI is the future as far as content generation and for their platforms. So they want to start making headway in that direction. So the solution we came up with is we migrated over to Figma because it has an excellent multiplayer format in it. From Figma, we designed the widget. So inside of Figma, you go to the widget menu, you pull up the Zumba widget or the Zumba translation widget. Selects all the text layers for you automatically. And it packages that up. And it gives it to what we call the brain. The brain grabs all the transcreations, figures out what the options selected were, and then starts running a few workflows. So those workflows decide, pick up the brand dictionary, pick up the brand-specific materials, do any omissions that are necessary, and start feeding this to, in this case, GPT-4. So we use OpenAI's APIs, runs the transcreations, and then feeds it to PO Editor. They have an API. And these are folks that essentially it's a marketplace, you're able to create tasks for transcreation. It drops it in an inbox, somebody picks it up when they're ready for the appropriate language, they finish it, and then they feed it back. Once a PO editor is done, feeds it back into Zumba, and then Zumba has internally a team validator that does the final check on this. All this stuff is hands-off, except the initial Figma file, and at the end where you need to validate it, there's no Jira tickets, there's no hand-holding required through any step of this process. The stack that we use is OpenAI. Right now we use GPT-4. Of course, very easy to upgrade to whichever model comes out next. Everything was written in TypeScript, and we use Postgres as a data store. This is the data store that Zumba uses already internally for other projects. And then PO Editor. We interface with our APIs to create the tasks. And then once the tasks are completed, they notify us, and then we push everything to Figma again. For the marketing teammate that is working on this, the experience looks very much like this. On the left, they have a frame that they're working on. And once they finish that frame, they pull up the translation widget, and they start selecting which brand voice they want to go after for this specific transcreation. Then they select which languages they want to do. They can select one or many, all the ones that you see listed there. And then finally, they select or they unselect any text layers that they don't want to go after. So if for some reason one of the text layers is just pricing, they can X that out and not submit it to the translation. When they click translate, something very similar to this happens. So on the left-hand side, what you have on there is the original artwork that they worked on. So that's in English. And then we'll start creating duplicate layers for every language they selected right next to it. So if they select 7 different languages, we'll create 7 different frames on there. This is a very agent-like workflow, which is different than just using a prompt, feeding it content, and then sending that over to OpenAI. And what I mean by that is the translation process actually goes through 5 loops, iterative loops, where it tries to improve the translation. So first we grab the brand dictionary and guidelines, we grab the content that we have, we feed that to OpenAI, and then we feed it to OpenAI with a different prompt that says, grade yourself on how well you did in this task. And if you don't think you did good enough, tell us why and give us a task list. spits out that task list. We feed it back again with a translation prompt to OpenAI, and then it loops on this 5 times. The reason we did 5 times is we tested less and more, and there's a diminishing return point that is beyond that. And this is where essentially we're asking the LLM excuse me, to do on here is to show its work. So reason of thought process, where it's telling ourselves, why do you think you did not do as well as you should have? I'm going to drink a bit of water. Why did you not do as well as you should have? And then it continues going through that loop 5 times. And then it does the same, but instead of a content creation or content translation process, it does it for editing. So it feeds it back to an editor prompt, and the editor says, here's a content that we translated. Please do your best to kind of critique it and modify it. And then there's actually an assessment process that assesses how well the editing process went. And it loops again 5 times. Once that's done, we feed that to PO editor to validate. And then once it's in PO editor, it comes back into Figma. So the results that we're seeing is that 55% of the translations we're creating require 0 edits. So no human intervention whatsoever. So that's 55% of the jobs that 100% of those essentially needed to touch or go through a human before. Another 20% of the jobs require minor edits. So this is maybe you're changing the word width, or maybe it doesn't look in the way it aligned with the material. But essentially 75% of the transcreations require either no edits or a very minor edit. And what we did is we shifted the transcreator role from a creator to an editor. So I'm sure we've all stared at a blank page to write an essay. It's much harder than to look at somebody's essay that they wrote and they're asking us to edit, right? So that's kind of what we're doing on here. It increases the size of the pool of transcreators we can use. It requires a specific kind of knowledge and seniority for a transcreator to be very creative and write something from scratch. That's not the case if you're editing content. You can kind of look at it and you know if it looks good or not. So in summary, we're saving now Zumba $500,000 a year. This used to be a $600,000 expense. It's now down to $100,000 all in. The turnaround went from several weeks, in most cases, or the average was 2 weeks, to sometimes minutes. In the cases where it's a simple campaign, as soon as you hit translate, it hits all these APIs, comes back, and it gives you the content immediately that you need. Sometimes folks inside Zumba are not native speakers in these languages, and they're able to make progress on this immediately. We reduced the amount of tools they use from 5 to 3. So the less tools they use, the less errors you're bound to get. And we removed dependency on third parties. So we removed completely the vendors that were orchestrating the whole transcreation process, and we just connect with APIs, hit directly, hit OpenAI, and just move to validation as opposed to straight up transcreation. And we started an AI foundation from which Zumba can build. We're actually helping them continue to iterate on this process. We're also moving on within the marketing department to do other projects, and then within sales, customer success, et cetera. Now they have that foundation, they have a knowledge base, they have a dictionary, and we can continue building on other projects. That's it. My name's Alex. I'll stick around here for a while. Maybe you have any questions. Cool.
It looks like we have about 1.5 minutes, so perhaps one question from the audience. We have 2 hands raised. I think. Well, no. All right, folks, we're running way behind here, so I'm going to take one question, and then are you going to be here in the evening?
Yep, for sure.
Any other questions? Please hold for after. I think the first one was the individual kind of right there.
Yes. And not for this project. When we worked on this was a few months back, and GPT-4 was the clear winner. We are comparing it now with Gemini, the 1.5, and also with Claude 3. My very uneducated take, like so far with what we have, is if it's copywriting or creative, all 3 of them are doing very well. Maybe Claude 3 doing the best, but GPT-4 is hard to beat right now.
Great, thank you.
Cool.
Another round of
Awesome.
applause.